Chapter 1. There is a quiet moment that exists between every thought you have. Most people never notice it. They rush from worry to worry, from fear to distraction, from stress to reaction. Their minds become crowded rooms filled with noise, and in that noise they slowly forget what calm even feels like. Yet within you, right now, there exists a space untouched by chaos, a place where clarity, steadiness, and positivity naturally live. The purpose of this audiobook is not to create calm inside you. Calm is already there. The purpose is to help you rediscover it. Modern life trains the brain to stay alert and restless. Notifications pull your attention in every direction. News cycles amplify fear. Expectations from work, family, and society stack pressure onto your shoulders until stress begins to feel normal. But stress is not your natural state. The human nervous system was designed to return to balance. When you learn how to guide your thoughts instead of being controlled by them, something extraordinary happens. The storm inside begins to settle. Many people believe calmness is something reserved for monks, philosophers, or people with easy lives. This is a myth. Calmness is not the absence of problems. It is the mastery of your response to them. A calm person still faces deadlines, conflicts, and uncertainty. The difference is that they carry an inner anchor. Their emotions move like waves on the surface, but deep beneath, the water remains steady. To understand how to stay calm and positive, you must first understand the nature of thought. Thoughts are events, not facts. They appear, they pass, and they often exaggerate reality. Yet when left unchecked, thoughts create emotional reactions that feel overwhelmingly real. A single negative thought can spiral into anxiety within seconds. The mind has a tendency to rehearse worst-case scenarios as a misguided attempt to protect you. It believes that by anticipating danger, it can prevent pain. Ironically, this habit often produces the very suffering it seeks to avoid. The first step toward calmness is awareness. Imagine sitting beside a river and watching leaves float by. Each leaf represents a thought. You do not need to chase the leaves or push them away. You simply observe them. When you practice observing your thoughts without judgment, you create distance between your awareness and the mental noise. In that distance, calmness begins to grow. Positivity is often misunderstood as forced optimism or denial of reality. True positivity is not pretending everything is perfect. It is the disciplined habit of directing attention toward possibility rather than limitation. Every situation contains multiple interpretations. A setback can be seen as failure or as feedback. A challenge can be viewed as a burden or as an opportunity to develop strength. Your interpretation shapes your emotional experience more than the event itself. There is a powerful principle at work here. What you repeatedly focus on becomes your mental environment. If your attention constantly scans for problems, your brain becomes highly skilled at finding them. If you intentionally notice moments of progress, gratitude, and meaning, your perception shifts. Over time, positivity becomes less of an effort and more of a default setting. Breathing plays a surprisingly central role in emotional regulation. When stress arises, breathing becomes shallow and rapid, signaling the body to remain in a state of alertness. By consciously slowing your breath, you send a message to the nervous system that it is safe to relax. A simple technique involves inhaling slowly through the nose, pausing briefly, and exhaling even more slowly through the mouth. Repeating this cycle for a few minutes can transform your physiological state. Calm is not just a mental concept, it is a bodily experience. Equally important is the way you speak to yourself internally. Many people maintain an inner dialogue that is harsher than any external critic. Self-criticism masquerades as motivation, but it erodes emotional stability. A calm and positive mindset requires cultivating an inner voice that is firm yet compassionate. When mistakes occur, acknowledge them without attacking your worth. Replace phrases like "I always fail" with more accurate statements such as "This attempt didn't work, but I can learn from it." Language shapes perception, and perception shapes emotion. Another cornerstone of calmness is acceptance. Resistance intensifies suffering. When you argue with reality, wishing events were different from what they are, tension multiplies. Acceptance does not mean approval or resignation. It means recognizing the present moment clearly before deciding how to respond. From acceptance arises intelligent action. You conserve energy that would otherwise be wasted fighting circumstances beyond your control. Human beings are deeply influenced by their environment. The people you spend time with, the information you consume, and the physical spaces you inhabit all affect your emotional baseline. Surrounding yourself with individuals who embody calm and optimism subtly trains your nervous system to mirror those qualities. Similarly, reducing exposure to constant negativity, whether through media or conversation, protects your mental clarity. Calmness is strengthened through routine practices that anchor you in the present. Activities such as walking in nature, journaling, or engaging in focused creative work quiet the mental chatter. These practices are not luxuries, they are essential maintenance for the mind. Just as the body requires regular movement to stay healthy, the mind requires intentional moments of stillness. There will be days when maintaining positivity feels difficult. On such days, remember that emotions are temporary states, not permanent identities. You are not your anxiety, frustration, or sadness. These feelings pass through you like weather through the sky. By refusing to define yourself by transient emotions, you preserve a stable sense of self beneath them. Gratitude serves as a powerful counterbalance to stress. When you consciously recognize what is working in your life, even small details, you interrupt the brain's bias toward threat detection. Gratitude does not ignore problems, it broadens perspective. It reminds you that alongside challenges, there are resources, relationships, and moments of beauty supporting you. Ultimately, staying calm and positive is a skill that improves with practice. It is not about achieving perfection or eliminating all negative thoughts. It is about returning again and again to awareness, balanced breathing, compassionate self-talk, and intentional focus. Each return strengthens neural pathways associated with resilience. As you continue listening to this audiobook, you will explore practical methods for managing stress, reshaping thought patterns, and cultivating emotional steadiness. These techniques are grounded in psychology, neuroscience, and timeless human wisdom. More importantly, they are tools you can integrate into everyday life. For now, consider this moment an invitation. Pause briefly and notice your breath. Feel the subtle rhythm that has been sustaining you since birth. Within that rhythm lies a reminder. Calm is not something you must chase across distant horizons. It is available here in the present moment, waiting for your attention. And from calmness grows genuine positivity, not the fragile optimism that collapses under pressure, but a steady confidence rooted in understanding your own mind. This journey begins with awareness and continues with deliberate practice. With patience, you will discover that staying calm and positive is not a rare achievement. It is a natural expression of a mind that has learned to rest in clarity. Chapter 2. Most people try to control their lives by controlling their circumstances. They organize schedules, plan outcomes, and attempt to predict every possible obstacle. Yet despite all this effort, uncertainty always finds a way to enter. When it does, many feel their calm collapse instantly. This is because they have built their sense of peace on fragile foundations. True calmness is not constructed from perfect conditions. It is built from internal habits that remain steady even when life is unpredictable. At the center of these habits lies attention. Attention is the currency of your mental world. Wherever it flows, energy follows. If your attention becomes trapped in imagined futures filled with fear, your body reacts as though those fears are happening now. Stress hormones rise, muscles tighten, and your thinking narrows. But when attention is anchored in the present moment, the nervous system stabilizes. You begin to respond to what is actually happening instead of reacting to what might happen. The present moment is often misunderstood as something small or insignificant. In reality, it is the only place where your power exists. You cannot act in the past, and you cannot directly control the future. You can only influence them through what you choose to do now. When you fully inhabit the present, even simple actions gain clarity and purpose. Washing dishes becomes an exercise in awareness. Walking becomes a rhythm of breath and movement. Conversations become opportunities to listen deeply rather than waiting impatiently for your turn to speak. This quality of presence trains the mind to slow down. Slowing down does not mean becoming less productive. In fact, it often increases effectiveness. A calm mind sees details that a rushed mind overlooks. It recognizes subtle emotional signals, both within yourself and in others. It detects opportunities hidden inside challenges. Productivity, born from calmness, is sustainable because it does not exhaust your mental reserves. One of the greatest obstacles to staying calm is the habit of over-identification with thoughts. When a negative idea appears, many people unconsciously merge with it. The thought, "I am overwhelmed," becomes a perceived fact about identity rather than a temporary mental event. This fusion intensifies emotional reactions. To cultivate positivity, you must learn to see thoughts as passing experiences rather than definitions of who you are. A helpful approach is to label thoughts gently. When anxiety arises, instead of saying, "I am anxious," try observing, "There is anxiety present." This subtle shift creates psychological space. It reminds you that emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. From that space, you gain the freedom to choose how to respond. Your brain is remarkably adaptable. Neuroscientists call this adaptability neuroplasticity, the ability of neural pathways to reorganize based on repeated experience. Every time you practice returning to calm after distraction, you strengthen circuits associated with emotional regulation. Over weeks and months, these circuits become more efficient. What once required intense effort gradually becomes natural. Positivity grows from the same principle. When you intentionally direct attention toward constructive interpretations, you train the brain to recognize patterns of possibility. This does not erase difficulties, but it prevents them from dominating perception. Consider how two people can experience the same setback, yet interpret it differently. One sees confirmation of inadequacy. The other sees information guiding improvement. The event is identical. The meaning assigned to it determines the emotional outcome. Meaning is not fixed. It is created through reflection. When something challenging occurs, pause before forming conclusions. Ask what the experience can teach you. Even painful moments contain lessons about patience, boundaries, or resilience. By searching for meaning instead of blame, you convert adversity into growth. Another essential element of calm positivity is emotional regulation. Emotions are signals carrying valuable information about your needs and environment. Suppressing them entirely leads to internal tension, while being controlled by them leads to impulsive behavior. Regulation lies between these extremes. It involves acknowledging emotions, feeling them fully, and allowing them to pass without letting them dictate your actions. A practical method for regulation involves grounding the senses. When emotions intensify, bring attention to physical sensations. Notice the contact of your feet with the floor, the texture of objects around you, or the ambient sounds in the environment. Sensory awareness anchors you in the present and interrupts cycles of rumination. The mind cannot spiral endlessly when it is engaged with immediate perception. Equally important is the cultivation of mental flexibility. Rigidity breeds frustration because reality rarely conforms to rigid expectations. Flexibility allows you to adapt gracefully when plans change. Instead of interpreting disruption as catastrophe, you begin to see it as variation. This shift reduces resistance and preserves emotional energy. Language once again plays a crucial role. Words such as always and never exaggerate difficulties and create a sense of permanence. Replacing them with more precise descriptions softens emotional impact. Saying, "This situation is difficult right now," is very different from declaring, "Everything is going wrong." Precision in language fosters precision in thought, and precise thinking supports calmness. Relationships also shape emotional stability. Humans are social beings whose nervous systems respond to one another. Calm individuals can transmit a sense of safety through tone of voice and body language. By consciously embodying calmness, you influence the emotional atmosphere around you. Conversations become less reactive and more collaborative. Positivity spreads quietly but powerfully through social interaction. Self-care is often portrayed as indulgence, yet it is a foundation of emotional resilience. Adequate sleep restores cognitive function and stabilizes mood. Balanced nutrition supports brain chemistry. Regular physical movement releases tension stored in the body. These biological factors are inseparable from psychological well-being. A neglected body makes calmness harder to access. Equally vital is the practice of intentional pauses. Throughout the day, brief moments of stillness allow the mind to reset. A single minute of conscious breathing between tasks can prevent stress from accumulating. These pauses act like punctuation marks in the rhythm of daily life, creating space for reflection and recalibration. It is important to recognize that setbacks are inevitable. There will be moments when irritation overrides patience or negativity clouds perspective. Such moments are not failures, they are opportunities to practice returning to balance. Each recovery strengthens resilience. The goal is not uninterrupted calm, but an increasing ability to come back to calm quickly and gently. Compassion toward yourself accelerates this process. Harsh self-judgment prolongs emotional turbulence. When you treat mistakes as part of learning, rather than evidence of inadequacy, you maintain motivation without sacrificing peace. Compassion generates a supportive internal environment where growth becomes sustainable. As you integrate these principles, you may notice subtle changes. Reactions that once felt automatic begin to slow. Choices appear where there were previously impulses. You become an observer of your own mental patterns, capable of guiding them with intention. Calmness and positivity cease to be abstract ideals and become lived experiences. This transformation does not require dramatic gestures. It unfolds through small, consistent actions repeated daily. Each mindful breath, each reframed thought, each moment of gratitude contributes to a cumulative shift in consciousness. Over time, these increments reshape your relationship with stress and uncertainty. The journey towards staying calm and positive is ultimately a journey towards self-understanding. By studying the movements of your own mind with curiosity rather than judgment, you uncover patterns that once operated invisibly. Awareness illuminates choice, and choice empowers change. As this chapter closes, carry forward a simple realization: calmness is strengthened by presence, and positivity is strengthened by interpretation. When you remain present and interpret experiences with openness, you align with the natural resilience built into your mind. From that alignment emerges a steady confidence capable of meeting life with clarity and grace. Chapter 3. There is a silent force that shapes the quality of your days more than any external circumstance. It is not luck, environment, or even intelligence. It is habit. Habits quietly construct the architecture of your mind. They determine how you react under pressure, how you interpret events, and how easily you return to calm after disruption. Many people attempt to stay calm and positive through occasional bursts of motivation, but motivation fades. Habits remain. When calmness becomes habitual, it stops feeling like effort and begins to feel like identity. Every habit follows a simple cycle: cue, behavior, and reward. A cue triggers an automatic response, and the brain reinforces that response when it perceives a benefit. Stressful situations often activate deeply ingrained habits of worry or self-criticism. These responses may feel unpleasant, yet they persist because the brain believes they offer protection. To cultivate calmness, you do not fight habits with force. You redesign the cycle. Begin by observing your emotional triggers. Notice the situations that consistently disturb your peace. It might be a demanding email, an unexpected delay, or a critical comment. These triggers are cues. Instead of allowing them to activate old patterns, insert a deliberate pause. That pause is a gateway to transformation. Within it, you choose a new behavior, perhaps a slow breath, a moment of reflection, or a reframing of the situation. When you experience the relief that follows, the brain registers a new reward. Repetition strengthens this alternative pathway until it becomes automatic. The power of small actions cannot be overstated. Grand resolutions often collapse under their own weight, but modest, consistent practices accumulate into profound change. A daily ritual of 5 minutes spent in quiet breathing may seem insignificant, yet over time it trains the nervous system to access calm more readily. Consistency communicates safety to the brain. It signals that stability is not accidental, but intentional. Environment plays a decisive role in shaping habits. Your surroundings constantly send signals that influence behavior. A cluttered space can subtly increase mental agitation, while an organized environment promotes clarity. Similarly, digital environments matter. Endless scrolling conditions the mind for distraction, fragmenting attention, and eroding patience. By curating both physical and digital spaces with care, you reduce unnecessary friction and create conditions that support emotional balance. Routines provide a framework within which calmness can flourish. Morning and evening rituals act as anchors at the edges of the day. A mindful beginning sets the tone for everything that follows. Instead of rushing immediately into obligations, allow a few moments for intentional awareness. Stretch gently, breathe deeply, or reflect on a guiding intention. At night, a deliberate winding down signals to the mind that it is safe to release tension. These transitions protect your emotional equilibrium. Equally important is the habit of mental nutrition. Just as the body is shaped by what it consumes, the mind is influenced by the information it absorbs. Constant exposure to negativity, outrage, or comparison feeds anxiety. Select your inputs thoughtfully. Seek content that educates, inspires, or cultivates understanding. This does not mean ignoring reality, it means balancing awareness with nourishment. One of the most transformative habits you can develop is reflective journaling. Writing clarifies thought. When emotions swirl indistinctly, placing them into words organizes experience. Journaling creates distance between awareness and reaction. It allows you to examine patterns, celebrate progress, and identify areas for growth. Over time, it becomes a dialogue with yourself, a record of evolving understanding. Movement is another essential habit. The body stores emotional tension in subtle ways. Regular physical activity releases accumulated stress and stimulates neurochemicals associated with well-being. Movement need not be intense to be effective. A walk outdoors, gentle stretching, or rhythmic breathing exercises reconnect you with the present moment. Through movement, the mind and body realign. Habits also govern social interaction. The way you communicate with others influences your internal state. Listening attentively rather than defensively reduces conflict and fosters connection. Expressing appreciation strengthens relationships and reinforces positivity. These interpersonal habits create an emotional ecosystem in which calmness becomes contagious. It is important to approach habit formation with patience. Change rarely occurs in dramatic leaps. Progress unfolds incrementally, often beneath conscious awareness. There will be days when old patterns resurface. Instead of interpreting these moments as failure, view them as reminders to recommit gently. Each return to practice deepens resilience. A helpful perspective is to treat habit building as experimentation rather than obligation. Curiosity replaces pressure. Ask yourself what practices genuinely support your well-being. Adjust them as needed. Flexibility ensures sustainability. Habits thrive when they align with personal values rather than external expectations. Another dimension of habit involves identity. People tend to act in ways consistent with their self-image. When you begin to see yourself as someone who values calm and positivity, your behaviors naturally align with that vision. Identity is shaped by evidence. Each time you choose a measured response over an impulsive reaction, you reinforce the narrative that calmness is part of who you are. This identity shift is subtle yet powerful. Instead of striving constantly to become calm, you operate from the assumption that calmness is your baseline. Challenges become opportunities to express that identity rather than threats to it. Positivity emerges not as forced optimism, but as a reflection of inner stability. The accumulation of supportive habits gradually transforms perception. Situations that once triggered stress lose their intensity. You notice space between stimulus and response. Within that space lies freedom, the freedom to choose reactions aligned with clarity and intention. This freedom is the essence of emotional mastery. As habits solidify, they create a rhythm of living that sustains calmness without constant vigilance. Daily actions flow with coherence. Energy previously consumed by internal conflict becomes available for creativity and connection. Positivity arises naturally from a system designed to support it. Remember that habits are tools, not constraints. Their purpose is to serve your well-being, not to impose rigidity. When approached with awareness and compassion, they become allies in the pursuit of a balanced life. Through consistent practice, you cultivate an inner environment where calm and positivity are not occasional visitors but enduring companions. Chapter 4. Fear rarely announces itself loudly at first. It begins as a whisper in the background of the mind, a subtle tension, a quiet anticipation of something going wrong. Left unattended, that whisper grows into a voice that colors perception and narrows possibility. Many people attempt to silence fear by ignoring it or fighting against it, yet resistance often strengthens what it opposes. To stay calm and positive, you must learn a different approach, understanding fear as information rather than an enemy. Fear is a natural biological response designed to protect you. It sharpens attention and prepares the body for action. In genuinely dangerous situations, this response is invaluable. However, the modern mind frequently activates fear in response to imagined threats, social judgment, uncertain outcomes, or internal doubts. When fear becomes chronic, it exhausts the nervous system and distorts thinking. The key to emotional balance lies in distinguishing between useful caution and unnecessary alarm. The first step is recognition. Notice how fear manifests in your body. It may appear as tightness in the chest, a quickened heartbeat, or a restless urge to escape. By observing these sensations without immediate reaction, you interrupt the automatic cycle of escalation. Sensations are signals, not commands. When you allow them to exist without resistance, they often dissipate more quickly than expected. Thoughts associated with fear tend to exaggerate risk and underestimate resilience. The mind constructs vivid scenarios of failure while overlooking past experiences of competence. To counter this bias, examine fearful thoughts with gentle curiosity. Ask whether the imagined outcome is certain or merely possible. Consider alternative interpretations. This inquiry transforms fear from a dominating force into an object of reflection. Courage is often misunderstood as the absence of fear. In reality, courage is the willingness to act wisely despite fear. When you acknowledge fear openly, it loses some of its power. You no longer expend energy pretending it does not exist. Instead, you integrate it into decision-making with clarity. This integration fosters a calm confidence rooted in realism rather than denial. An effective practice for working with fear involves gradual exposure. Avoidance temporarily reduces discomfort, but reinforces the belief that feared situations are intolerable. By approaching challenges in manageable steps, you retrain the nervous system to associate them with safety. Each successful encounter expands your comfort zone and strengthens trust in your ability to cope. Equally important is the cultivation of acceptance toward uncertainty. Much fear arises from the desire for guarantees, yet life offers none. Attempting to eliminate uncertainty creates perpetual tension. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It means recognizing that unpredictability is an inherent feature of existence. When you accept this truth, you redirect energy from futile control toward adaptive preparation. Preparation grounded in calmness differs from preparation driven by anxiety. Calm preparation focuses on actionable steps within your influence. It organizes resources, clarifies intentions, and anticipates obstacles without dramatizing them. Anxiety, by contrast, loops endlessly around hypothetical dangers. By emphasizing concrete action over speculation, you maintain equilibrium. Positivity emerges naturally when fear is placed in proper perspective. Fear narrows attention to potential loss, while positivity broadens awareness to include opportunity. Both perspectives are valuable when balanced. A calm mind integrates caution with optimism, assessing risks while remaining open to growth. This balance supports decisions that are both prudent and forward-looking. Another dimension of fear involves social evaluation. Humans possess a deep sensitivity to belonging. The possibility of rejection can trigger intense anxiety. To remain calm in social contexts, cultivate an internal sense of worth, independent of external approval. This does not imply indifference to feedback, but rather resilience in the face of it. When your self-respect is stable, criticism becomes information rather than a threat to identity. Mindful communication plays a role here. Expressing thoughts honestly and listening empathetically reduce misunderstandings that often fuel social fear. When conversations are approached with curiosity instead of defensiveness, they become opportunities for connection. Connection, in turn, soothes the nervous system and reinforces positivity. Visualization can also assist in transforming fear. By mentally rehearsing calm responses to challenging situations, you prepare neural pathways for real encounters. Visualization is not fantasy, it is a rehearsal of intention. When combined with practical preparation, it enhances confidence and reduces anticipatory stress. It is essential to remember that fear is transient. No emotional state is permanent. When fear arises, remind yourself that it is a wave moving through awareness. Waves crest and fall. By riding them with patience rather than resistance, you conserve energy and maintain composure. Compassion toward fear deepens this process. Instead of condemning yourself for feeling afraid, acknowledge that fear is a universal human experience. Treat it as you would treat a friend in distress, with understanding and support. Compassion softens inner conflict and allows positivity to coexist with vulnerability. Over time, your relationship with fear evolves. Situations that once seemed overwhelming become manageable. You recognize patterns in your reactions and respond with increasing skill. Calmness is no longer fragile, it is reinforced by experience. Positivity is no longer forced, it arises from trust in your capacity to navigate uncertainty. As you integrate these insights, you may notice a shift in perspective. Fear becomes less of an obstacle and more of a teacher. It highlights areas where growth is possible and values are clarified. By engaging with fear thoughtfully, you transform it into a catalyst for resilience. This chapter invites you to reconsider your understanding of fear. Rather than striving to eliminate it, aim to relate to it wisely. Through recognition, inquiry, gradual exposure, and compassion, fear becomes compatible with calmness. From that compatibility emerges a balanced positivity, a state in which caution informs action without overshadowing hope. In embracing this balance, you cultivate a steady presence capable of meeting life's uncertainties with grace. Fear remains part of the human experience, but it no longer dictates your direction. Instead, it becomes one voice among many within a mind guided by clarity and intention. Chapter 5. There is a conversation happening inside your mind every waking moment. It is constant, intimate, and powerful. This internal dialogue shapes how you see the world, how you interpret events, and how you feel about yourself. Many people underestimate its influence because it is so familiar. They assume their thoughts are neutral reflections of reality. In truth, the way you speak to yourself is one of the strongest forces determining whether you remain calm and positive or trapped in cycles of stress and doubt. Your inner voice developed over years of experience. It absorbed messages from parents, teachers, culture, and past successes or failures. Some of these messages are supportive, encouraging growth and resilience. Others are critical, repeating old fears or judgments long after their usefulness has faded. When negative self-talk becomes habitual, it quietly erodes emotional stability. A calm and positive life requires becoming conscious of this dialogue and reshaping it with intention. The first step is awareness. Most self-talk operates automatically, below the level of deliberate attention. To notice it, slow down your thinking and observe the tone of your inner commentary. When something goes wrong, what do you say to yourself? Do you respond with patience and problem-solving, or with blame and exaggeration? Awareness alone begins to loosen the grip of destructive patterns. Negative self-talk often follows predictable themes. It may involve catastrophizing, where minor setbacks are interpreted as disasters. It may involve overgeneralization, where a single mistake becomes evidence of permanent inadequacy. It may involve mind reading, assuming others are judging you harshly without evidence. These patterns distort perception and amplify emotional distress. Challenging these distortions requires gentle questioning. When a harsh thought appears, treat it as a hypothesis rather than a fact. Ask whether it is supported by objective evidence. Consider alternative explanations. Replace exaggerated statements with balanced ones. For example, instead of thinking, "I never succeed," acknowledge specific instances where effort led to progress. This practice does not deny difficulty, it restores proportion. Language has emotional weight. Words carry associations that influence how experiences are encoded in memory. By choosing language that is accurate and constructive, you reshape emotional responses. Speak to yourself as you would to a trusted friend, honestly yet with kindness. This shift fosters an internal climate where calmness can thrive. Affirmations can be useful when grounded in authenticity. Repeating empty phrases disconnected from experience has little effect. However, affirmations that reflect realistic strengths reinforce confidence. Statements such as, "I am capable of learning," or "I can handle challenges step by step," remind the mind of its adaptive capacity. Over time, these reminders counterbalance habitual doubt. Equally important is the practice of self-compassion. Many people believe that strict self-criticism motivates improvement. In reality, excessive harshness triggers defensive reactions and discouragement. Self-compassion recognizes imperfection as part of the human condition. It allows you to acknowledge mistakes without equating them with personal failure. From this perspective, growth becomes a process of refinement rather than punishment. Listening to your emotional needs is another dimension of healthy self-talk. Emotions communicate information about values and boundaries. When you ignore them, tension accumulates. When you listen attentively, you gain insight into what requires adjustment. Calmness arises when actions align with inner understanding. Visualization combined with supportive self-talk strengthens resilience. Before entering challenging situations, imagine responding with composure and clarity. Accompany these images with encouraging internal dialogue. This mental rehearsal conditions the nervous system to associate difficulty with capability rather than fear. Your internal conversation also influences how you perceive others. A mind accustomed to kindness toward itself extends that kindness outward. Interactions become less defensive and more empathetic. Positivity spreads through relationships, reinforcing your own sense of balance. It is essential to remember that changing self-talk is a gradual process. Old patterns may resurface, especially under stress. When they do, respond with patience. Each moment of awareness is an opportunity to redirect the conversation. Progress lies not in perfection, but in persistence. As constructive self-talk becomes habitual, you may notice subtle transformations. Challenges feel less threatening because your inner voice offers guidance instead of condemnation. Decisions become clearer because fear no longer dominates interpretation. Calmness deepens, supported by a stable internal ally. This chapter invites you to cultivate a relationship with yourself grounded in respect and understanding. By refining the language of your inner dialogue, you shape the emotional landscape of your life. Calm and positivity are not imposed from outside, they emerge from the way you relate to your own thoughts. Chapter 6. Stress often feels like an external force pressing in from all directions. Deadlines accumulate, responsibilities multiply, and expectations seem endless. Yet stress is not created solely by the volume of demands you face. It is shaped by the way your mind and body interpret those demands. Two people can encounter identical circumstances and experience vastly different levels of strain. The difference lies in how they manage their internal responses. To stay calm and positive in a stressful world, you must understand stress as a dynamic interaction between perception and physiology. When the brain perceives a threat, whether physical or psychological, it activates a cascade of chemical signals preparing the body for action. This response is ancient and adaptive, but in modern life it is triggered far more frequently than necessary. Chronic activation exhausts energy and clouds judgment. The foundation of stress management is recognizing early signals. Stress rarely appears suddenly at full intensity. It builds gradually through subtle cues, shallow breathing, muscle tension, irritability, or racing thoughts. By noticing these signs early, you gain the opportunity to intervene before escalation. Awareness acts as an internal alarm system, guiding you toward corrective action. One of the most effective interventions is conscious breathing. Slow, rhythmic breathing communicates safety to the nervous system. It activates the parasympathetic branch responsible for restoration and calm. When practiced regularly, controlled breathing becomes a reliable anchor during moments of pressure. Even a few deliberate breaths can interrupt spirals of anxiety and restore clarity. Equally important is the management of attention. Stress thrives on scattered focus. When your mind attempts to juggle too many concerns simultaneously, it fragments into agitation. Prioritization counters this effect. Identify what truly requires immediate action and what can wait. By directing attention toward one task at a time, you reduce cognitive overload and enhance efficiency. Time perception also influences stress. When you feel rushed, minutes seem compressed, intensifying urgency. Creating intentional buffers between activities softens this pressure. Allowing extra time for transitions reduces the sense of being chased by the clock. These buffers are not wasted moments, they are investments in emotional stability. Physical movement remains a powerful antidote to accumulated tension. Stress hormones prepare the body for motion. When that motion is suppressed, energy stagnates. Gentle exercise, stretching, walking, or rhythmic activity completes the physiological cycle initiated by stress. Movement transforms restless energy into balanced vitality. Nutrition and hydration subtly shape resilience. Fluctuations in blood sugar or dehydration can mimic symptoms of anxiety. Maintaining steady nourishment supports consistent mood and concentration. Caring for the body is inseparable from caring for the mind. Mental reframing further refines stress management. Many stresses arise not from events themselves, but from interpretations layered upon them. Viewing challenges as opportunities for learning shifts emotional tone. Instead of perceiving pressure as a signal of inadequacy, interpret it as evidence of engagement with meaningful tasks. This perspective fosters motivation without sacrificing calmness. Boundaries play a critical role in preserving equilibrium. Overcommitment dilutes attention and erodes energy. Learning to decline excessive demands is an act of self-respect. Boundaries are not barriers against connection, they are structures that protect sustainability. When your commitments align with capacity, you engage fully without resentment. Rest is often undervalued in cultures that celebrate constant productivity. Yet recovery is essential for long-term effectiveness. Sleep consolidates memory, regulates emotion, and restores physical systems. Short periods of relaxation during the day prevent cumulative fatigue. Rest is not a retreat from responsibility, it is preparation for fulfilling it wisely. Another dimension of stress involves uncertainty about outcomes. The mind seeks closure and predictability. When faced with ambiguity, it may generate worst-case scenarios. Practicing tolerance for uncertainty reduces this tendency. Remind yourself that not all variables can be controlled and that adaptability is a strength. Trust in your ability to respond as situations unfold. Social support acts as a buffer against stress. Sharing concerns with trusted individuals diffuses emotional intensity and invites perspective. Connection reassures the nervous system that you are not navigating challenges alone. Even brief moments of genuine interaction can restore a sense of belonging and calm. Mindfulness integrates these strategies into a coherent practice. By returning attention to the present moment, you interrupt habitual rumination about past regrets or future fears. Mindfulness does not eliminate problems, it clarifies them. With clarity comes the capacity for measured response. It is important to approach stress management with realism. Some pressures are unavoidable. The goal is not to create a life free of challenge, but to cultivate resilience within it. Resilience emerges from consistent application of supportive habits. Each time you respond to stress with awareness rather than panic, you strengthen neural pathways associated with composure. Over time, your relationship with stress evolves. Situations that once provoked overwhelm become manageable signals prompting constructive action. You begin to recognize stress as information guiding adjustment rather than as an enemy to be feared. This shift transforms tension into a catalyst for growth. Calmness and positivity flourish when stress is integrated into a balanced system of care. Through breathing, prioritization, movement, nourishment, boundaries, rest, and connection, you create conditions where the nervous system can return to equilibrium. From that equilibrium arises clear thinking and steady optimism. This chapter invites you to view stress not as a personal failing, but as a universal human response that can be guided skillfully. By learning to interpret its signals and respond with intention, you convert pressure into energy that supports purposeful action. In doing so, you build a foundation of calm that remains accessible even amid complexity. Chapter 7. Your mind is a storyteller. From the moment you wake until the moment you fall asleep, it is weaving narratives about who you are, what is happening around you, and what the future might hold. These stories feel so natural that you rarely question them. Yet the quality of your calmness and positivity depends largely on the kinds of stories you repeatedly tell yourself. Many of the narratives running through the mind were formed years ago. Some originated in childhood experiences, others in moments of success or disappointment that left a strong emotional imprint. Over time, these experiences crystallized into beliefs. You may carry quiet assumptions such as, "I am not good under pressure," or "things never work out for me," or even, "I must always please others to be accepted." These beliefs operate beneath awareness, guiding perception and behavior like invisible scripts. To stay calm and positive, you must bring these scripts into the light. Awareness transforms unconscious patterns into conscious choices. Begin by listening carefully to the recurring themes in your thoughts. Notice how you explain setbacks or interpret uncertainty. Do your stories emphasize limitation or possibility? Do they portray you as powerless or capable? Beliefs are powerful because they filter perception. When you expect failure, the mind unconsciously searches for evidence confirming that expectation. When you expect growth, it notices opportunities for learning. This filtering process is not deliberate deception, it is the brain's attempt to create coherence. However, coherence built on outdated beliefs restricts potential. Rewriting internal narratives does not mean inventing unrealistic fantasies. It involves updating beliefs to reflect your evolving understanding. Consider experiences that contradict limiting assumptions. Recall moments when you handled difficulty effectively or adapted to change. These memories are evidence of resilience. By integrating them into your self-concept, you construct a more accurate and empowering story. Language once again plays a central role. The words you use to describe yourself influence identity. Replace fixed labels with dynamic descriptions. Instead of saying, "I am bad at handling stress," acknowledge, "I am learning to respond to stress more skillfully." This phrasing recognizes progress and invites continuation. It frames growth as an ongoing process rather than a distant ideal. Another essential aspect of narrative change is perspective. Every event can be interpreted through multiple lenses. A setback may signify defeat or redirection. A delay may represent inconvenience or an opportunity to refine preparation. By consciously selecting perspectives that emphasize learning and adaptability, you cultivate optimism grounded in realism. Reflection deepens this transformation. Set aside time to examine significant experiences and the meanings you assign to them. Ask whether those meanings still serve you. Often, beliefs formed in earlier stages of life persist long after circumstances have changed. Updating them aligns your inner narrative with present reality. Gratitude enriches the stories you tell about your life. When you acknowledge moments of support, achievement, and beauty, you weave threads of appreciation into your personal narrative. These threads counterbalance the mind's tendency to dwell on difficulty. Gratitude does not erase challenges, it contextualizes them within a broader tapestry of experience. It is also important to recognize the influence of collective narratives. Cultural expectations and social comparisons can shape self-perception. While these narratives provide context, they need not define your worth. Clarifying personal values allows you to construct a story aligned with what genuinely matters to you. When actions reflect values, calmness arises from integrity. Visualization can reinforce new narratives. Imagine yourself acting in accordance with your evolving beliefs. See yourself responding to challenges with steadiness and clarity. Feel the emotional tone of that response. Visualization rehearses possibility, making it more accessible in real situations. As you revise your internal stories, patience remains essential. Deeply ingrained beliefs do not disappear overnight. They soften gradually as new evidence accumulates. Each time you act in harmony with a constructive narrative, you strengthen its credibility. Consistency transforms intention into identity. Relationships can support this process. Sharing your evolving perspective with trusted individuals invites encouragement and accountability. Others may reflect strengths you overlook, helping to stabilize emerging beliefs. Dialogue expands awareness and reinforces positivity. Over time, a coherent narrative of resilience begins to emerge. You see your life not as a series of isolated events, but as a continuum of growth. Challenges become chapters contributing to wisdom rather than interruptions of progress. This perspective fosters calm acceptance of uncertainty and confidence in your capacity to adapt. The stories you tell yourself are not trivial embellishments, they are frameworks through which reality is interpreted. By consciously shaping these frameworks, you influence emotional experience at its root. Calmness flows from narratives that emphasize agency and understanding. Positivity arises from stories that highlight possibility and meaning. This chapter invites you to become an author of your own inner dialogue. Rather than inheriting scripts unquestioningly, you choose narratives that reflect your highest understanding of yourself. In doing so, you create a mental environment where calm and optimism are sustained by coherent belief. As your stories evolve, so does your relationship with the world. You meet situations not as a passive character bound by fate, but as an active participant capable of learning and adaptation. Within that recognition lies a quiet strength, the assurance that whatever unfolds can be integrated into a narrative of growth. And from that strength emerges a steady calm, accompanied by a positivity that is neither naive nor fragile, but grounded in the knowledge that your story is still being written and you hold the pen. Chapter 8. Emotions are the colors of experience, painting every moment with nuance and depth. Yet unlike colors on a canvas, emotions often feel uncontrollable, unpredictable, and overwhelming. Many people live at the mercy of their feelings, reacting impulsively and allowing fleeting states to dictate long-term decisions. To remain calm and positive, it is essential to develop emotional intelligence, the capacity to perceive, understand, and guide emotions skillfully. Emotional intelligence begins with awareness. Notice the subtle signals your body provides: tension in the shoulders, a racing heartbeat, a tightness in the stomach. Emotions manifest physically before they manifest cognitively. By paying attention to these signs, you gain early insight into your internal state, creating a window for intentional response rather than automatic reaction. Naming emotions is a deceptively simple yet powerful practice. When you label what you are feeling, I feel anxious, I feel frustrated, I feel hopeful, you separate the emotion from your identity. This separation creates clarity and reduces the intensity of automatic reactions. The mind is less likely to spiral when it can observe rather than identify with emotional states. Understanding the purpose of emotions transforms your relationship with them. Fear signals a perceived threat, signaling preparation for action. Anger highlights a perceived boundary violation, prompting assertiveness or change. Sadness reflects loss, guiding reflection and adaptation. Emotions are messengers, not dictators. By interpreting them as information rather than imperatives, you maintain calm while responding wisely. Regulation of emotion is the next crucial skill. Regulation does not mean suppression. Suppressing emotions creates tension that accumulates in the body and mind. Regulation involves acknowledging, experiencing, and then choosing how to act. Techniques such as controlled breathing, grounding exercises, and mindful observation stabilize internal states. These practices prevent temporary emotional turbulence from dictating behavior. Perspective shifting enhances emotional resilience. Often, emotions are amplified by narrow thinking. This is unbearable. Everything is going wrong. By expanding the lens, you integrate context. This situation is difficult but manageable. Some aspects are challenging, while others remain stable. Broader perspective reduces the disproportionate influence of intense emotions. Self-compassion deepens emotional mastery. Humans tend to react harshly toward themselves when emotions arise. Criticism intensifies stress and disrupts calm. Instead, acknowledge emotions without judgment. Tell yourself, it is understandable to feel this way. This approach calms the nervous system and fosters positivity even in the face of discomfort. Emotions also interact with cognition. Thoughts amplify feelings, and feelings influence thoughts. Negative rumination reinforces anxiety, while hopeful reflection strengthens optimism. By consciously directing thought patterns, you modulate emotional tone. Practices such as gratitude reflection, constructive problem-solving, and positive visualization cultivate mental states conducive to calmness. Social emotions deserve attention as well. Empathy and connection are double-edged. They can enrich relationships or overwhelm your internal balance. Setting boundaries ensures that you engage with others emotionally without losing your center. Awareness of the impact of social interactions allows you to maintain positivity while nurturing connection. Routine emotional maintenance prevents crises. Journaling, meditation, and mindful pauses create space for reflection and release. Small daily practices maintain stability, making sudden stresses easier to manage. Consistency builds neural pathways that reinforce calmness over time. Importantly, emotions are transient. Happiness, anger, anxiety, or disappointment ebb and flow. Recognizing this impermanence reduces over-identification with fleeting states. When you experience emotions as waves, you ride them rather than being swept away. This approach strengthens the mind's capacity to remain centered under pressure. Visualization techniques complement emotional regulation. Imagine yourself responding to a challenging scenario with composure and clarity. Feel the calmness, the steady breath, the thoughtful decision-making. Rehearsal creates familiarity, allowing real-life experiences to evoke similar responses naturally. Emotional intelligence also integrates acceptance of what cannot be changed. Resistance to inevitable circumstances magnifies discomfort. Acceptance does not equate to resignation. It equips you to direct energy toward what can be influenced. Calmness grows when effort is applied effectively rather than scattered in futile opposition. Gratitude amplifies emotional balance. By acknowledging moments of support, progress, and beauty, the brain registers positive experiences alongside challenges. This dual awareness prevents pessimism from dominating and reinforces constructive emotional patterns. Lastly, patience is essential. Emotional mastery is a gradual process. You will experience setbacks, sudden surges, and old patterns re-emerging. Treat these moments as opportunities to practice returning to balance. Each recovery strengthens the neural architecture, supporting calmness and positivity. This chapter emphasizes that emotional intelligence is not a luxury for exceptional individuals. It is an essential skill for navigating life. By cultivating awareness, naming, understanding, regulating, and reflecting on emotions, you gain mastery over responses without suppressing authenticity. Calmness becomes accessible, and positivity emerges naturally as the mind aligns with intention and understanding. Through these practices, the mind transforms from a reactive instrument into a responsive guide. Emotions provide information, awareness provides clarity, and intentional action produces balance. In this integration, calmness and positivity are no longer fragile states, but enduring qualities that shape every interaction, every decision, and every moment. Chapter 9. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for sustaining calm and positivity. At first glance, it may seem like a simple act, a fleeting acknowledgement of what is good in life. Yet neuroscience and psychology reveal that gratitude profoundly reshapes the brain, influencing emotional patterns, attention, and overall well-being. Practicing gratitude consistently rewires the mind to notice abundance rather than scarcity, fostering resilience against stress and negativity. The first step in cultivating gratitude is awareness. Many people overlook the small, ordinary blessings embedded in daily life: a warm cup of tea, a clear sky, a brief smile from a stranger, or a quiet moment of reflection. These instances, though subtle, provide the foundation for positive perception. By intentionally noticing them, you shift attention from what is lacking to what is present and supportive. Journaling is a practical method to deepen gratitude. At the end of each day, write down 3 to 5 things for which you are genuinely grateful. Avoid generic statements. Be specific. Instead of, "I am grateful for my family," note, "I am grateful that my sister called me today, sharing laughter and advice." Specificity enhances emotional impact, creating a vivid mental record that the brain can recall with ease. Gratitude also benefits interpersonal relationships. Expressing appreciation strengthens bonds and encourages reciprocity. When you convey genuine acknowledgement to friends, colleagues, or loved ones, you not only enhance their well-being, but also reinforce your own positive emotional state. Social reinforcement amplifies the neural pathways associated with happiness and calm. Perspective plays a crucial role in gratitude. Life presents inevitable challenges, yet gratitude can coexist with difficulty. Being grateful does not require denying hardship. It involves recognizing that amidst challenges, there remain elements worthy of acknowledgement. This balanced awareness reduces the sense of overwhelm and fosters a grounded optimism. The practice of gratitude also interacts with self-perception. When you recognize your own efforts and achievements, you cultivate self-respect. It is easy to overlook personal contributions, focusing instead on flaws or unmet goals. By celebrating small victories and progress, you reinforce a narrative of competence and growth. Positivity emerges from this internal acknowledgement. Meditation and mindfulness enhance the effectiveness of gratitude. During quiet reflection, focus on sensations, experiences, or people that evoke appreciation. Feel the warmth, the connection, the subtle joy. Emotionally immersing yourself in gratitude activates neural circuits associated with reward and satisfaction, strengthening the tendency to notice positives in everyday life. Gratitude can also be applied in reframing setbacks. Challenges, though uncomfortable, often contain lessons or opportunities for growth. Recognizing the learning potential within difficulties transforms perception from frustration to constructive engagement. The mind trained in gratitude seeks value even in adversity, stabilizing calmness under pressure. Biologically, gratitude reduces stress hormones and increases neurotransmitters associated with well-being, such as dopamine and serotonin. Regular practice creates a mental environment conducive to clarity, patience, and emotional regulation. Over time, this physiological effect reinforces habitual calm and positive outlook, making it increasingly accessible even during difficult circumstances. Importantly, gratitude is not about comparison or social evaluation. It is an internal lens rather than an external contest. Comparing yourself to others often triggers envy and dissatisfaction. Gratitude shifts focus to what is directly present, what you can control, and what enriches your experience. This shift strengthens internal stability rather than relying on external validation. Gratitude also strengthens the capacity for compassion. By recognizing and appreciating the efforts of others, empathy deepens. Compassion for self and others reduces reactive tendencies, fosters understanding, and promotes harmonious interactions. Calmness grows when relationships are approached with openness and appreciation rather than judgment. Daily life offers countless opportunities for practice. Moments of frustration, delay, or inconvenience can become triggers to search for silver linings. Recognizing patience, lessons learned, or assistance received during these moments reinforces positive neural pathways. Over time, your mind begins to habitually scan for positives, creating an automatic mechanism for calm and positivity. Consistency is essential. Like physical exercise, the benefits of gratitude compound gradually. A brief daily practice, repeated with intention, can produce measurable improvements in mood, stress resilience, and overall outlook. Patience with the process is key. The mind strengthens through repetition and reinforcement. Finally, gratitude is a choice. It requires conscious attention to what you value and what sustains you. Life's challenges will always exist, but gratitude determines the emotional framework through which you interpret them. By consistently choosing to notice and appreciate, you shift the balance from tension to ease, from negativity to possibility. This chapter emphasizes that gratitude is both a mental habit and an emotional skill. Through awareness, journaling, reflection, and expression, you cultivate a mindset that naturally favors calm and positive states. Chapter 10. Calmness and positivity are often imagined as fragile states that must be protected from the outside world. Many people believe they can remain peaceful only when conditions are ideal, when schedules are clear, relationships are smooth, and uncertainty is distant. Yet life rarely offers such perfect arrangements. The real art of staying calm and positive lies in learning how to carry these qualities into the very environments that seem to threaten them. Every day you step into spaces filled with competing energies, workplaces shaped by urgency, social settings influenced by expectations, and digital environments saturated with information. These spaces exert subtle pressure on your nervous system. Without awareness, you begin to mirror the tension around you. To maintain calmness, you must develop the ability to enter these environments without absorbing their chaos. The foundation of this ability is intentional presence. Before engaging with a demanding situation, pause briefly and center your attention on your breath. This simple act establishes an internal reference point. Instead of being swept into external momentum, you carry a quiet anchor within you. Presence allows you to participate fully without losing balance. Boundaries are essential in navigating external pressures. Many sources of stress arise from unclear limits. Saying yes when you mean no, overextending energy, or accepting responsibilities that exceed capacity. Boundaries are not acts of rejection. They are expressions of clarity. When you communicate limits respectfully, you protect your emotional resources and create space for meaningful engagement. Digital environments deserve particular attention. Constant connectivity fragments focus and amplifies comparison, notifications interrupt thought, and curated images of others' lives distort perception. To preserve calm, practice selective engagement. Schedule periods of intentional disconnection. Use technology as a tool rather than allowing it to dictate rhythm. Silence becomes a form of nourishment in a world saturated with noise. Workplace dynamics often test emotional equilibrium. Deadlines and expectations can create an atmosphere of urgency that spreads quickly. Within this environment, calm individuals become stabilizing influences. By responding thoughtfully rather than reactively, you model a pace that encourages clarity. Colleagues often mirror this steadiness, transforming collective energy. Communication plays a decisive role in maintaining positivity. Words spoken under stress can escalate tension or dissolve it. Choosing language that is measured and respectful reduces conflict. Listening attentively signals understanding and diffuses defensiveness. Calm communication is not passive, it is deliberate and effective. Another crucial skill is emotional detachment without disengagement. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means recognizing that you can care deeply about outcomes without tying your entire sense of worth to them. When results are uncertain, this perspective prevents anxiety from overwhelming effort. You remain invested in action while accepting that not all variables are controllable. Rituals of renewal counterbalance external demands. Short breaks during the day, stepping outside, stretching or closing your eyes for a moment, reset the nervous system. These intervals act as bridges between tasks, preventing cumulative tension. Renewal is not an interruption of productivity, it sustains it. Environment also includes the social atmosphere you cultivate intentionally. Surrounding yourself with individuals who value growth and composure reinforces your own habits. Conversations centered on possibility rather than complaint nourish optimism. While you cannot choose every interaction, you can choose which voices receive your attention. Perspective remains your most reliable ally. External events gain emotional power through interpretation. When challenges arise, remind yourself that situations are temporary and multifaceted. A single setback does not define the trajectory of your life. By holding experiences within a broad frame, you prevent momentary turbulence from overshadowing long-term vision. It is equally important to celebrate small successes within demanding environments. Recognition of progress counteracts the mind's tendency to fixate on unfinished tasks. Each acknowledgement reinforces motivation and positivity. Progress becomes visible and effort feels meaningful. Resilience emerges from repetition. Each time you navigate a stressful environment with composure, you strengthen neural pathways associated with calm response. Over time, this response becomes instinctive. What once required conscious effort transforms into natural behavior. As you integrate these practices, you may notice a shift in how environments affect you. Instead of feeling shaped by external pressures, you begin to shape your experience within them. Calmness becomes portable, a quality you carry rather than a condition you seek. This portability is the essence of emotional independence. You engage fully with the world while remaining rooted in internal steadiness. Positivity arises not from denial of difficulty, but from confidence in your capacity to respond wisely. Chapter by chapter, you have explored the foundations of calm and positive living, awareness, habits, emotional intelligence, gratitude, and narrative perspective. This chapter extends those foundations into the environments where life unfolds. It invites you to view every setting as an opportunity to practice presence and intention. When you enter the world with this mindset, challenges become arenas for refinement rather than threats to peace. Each interaction becomes a chance to embody the qualities you cultivate. Calmness ceases to be fragile. Positivity ceases to be conditional. They become expressions of a disciplined and compassionate mind moving through complexity with quiet strength. And in that movement, you discover a profound realization. The world may remain unpredictable, but your relationship with it can remain steady. From that steadiness flows a sustained sense of optimism, a confidence that wherever you go, you carry within you the capacity for clarity, patience, and enduring calm.